Hello and welcome. If you are new here, I'm Taylor. I'm the host of the Dive podcast. I'm also a musical theatre performer and I've been in the industry for over 10 years. Alongside that, I'm also a yoga and dance teacher and I'm the creator and founder of The Dive, which is the fastest growing support platform for musical theatre artists, both emerging and professional. Join us for conversations on mindset, behind the scenes stories of professionals in the industry, and how you can navigate the challenges that we face as artists. Once a week, you'll have a professional guest come on the show who we will interview. And every second week, you'll have me as your podcast host, where I'll be coming on and sharing with you practical exercises and resources to help you on your way to becoming a professional in the industry. Hello, Mel. Thank you so much for being on the show. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, of course. I was just saying we recently were chatting about Todd Patrick, who we can't not mention, as that's kind of how we both are connecting today. We both went to the school and he messaged me not that long ago and said, you have to get Mel on the show. I think she'd be great. And I'm just so grateful that we've found a time and that we're here and chatting.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad to be here. I'm a big podcast girly as well, so
Yeah.
it's kind of fun too. I think this might be my first podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Oh, I feel very
oh,
lucky to have you on as your first time. Well,
awesome.
today we're going to be chatting a lot about listening to your heart. We've chatted a lot about on this podcast about, trusting your gut, but going a bit further into, really listening to what your heart's wanting and learning how to constantly be in that reinventing stage and not being ashamed or scared to be constantly reinventing and reigniting yourself. But before we get into that awesome topic, I'd love for you to just chat a little bit about, your journey from PSA, where we both went through, not at the same time, but we had a very similar experience, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you in terms of the training that you had when you were starting out?
Oh, I wouldn't have changed going there for the world, honestly. I was just mentioning to you before, I'm from Adelaide and I had no knowledge of, well, the school didn't actually exist. So I was in the first year of it and I was considering coming to Melbourne, but I wasn't sure. And I got this random phone call from this guy, Todd Patrick, and he kind of just was like, I've heard about you. I've heard that you're a great dancer. I would love for you to come over. And for some reason, something in that phone call, something in his voice, and this kind of goes on to what we're going to talk about, but
Mm,
something in that, I just knew that it was the right decision to follow that.
yeah.
And it's just that energy. And I just, in my heart, I was like, yep, this is the right thing. So I don't even know, without knowing him or anything, packed my car up and drove over here to Melbourne with $0 to my name. And did just 1 year of full-time training there. But in that year, I learned so much. I had the most
Mm,
incredible teachers. We were so lucky. Andrew Hallsworth, Yvette
yeah.
Lee, we had amazing teachers.
And
So
how many people were in the school at that time? Because I mean, that was like the start of it.
I know. I actually, oh gosh, I mean, a few dropped out along the year, which is going obviously, which is funny, that's going to happen. But I think we started not many. Hey, I want to say 30.
Yeah.
I might be
Wow.
wrong. I think from memory there was because there was only the one group, and because it wasn't divided into musical theatre and
Yeah.
dance at that point, we were just kind of doing everything. We were
Mm,
also singing and doing a bit of acting and things like that. But yeah, it was mostly dance stuff, and yeah, I feel very lucky because the numbers were so low. You got a lot of attention from
right.
these teachers, and I think that was a gift.
Mm.
You know.
I mean, now there's like, I'm sure there's like over 100 students there
Yeah.
now.
And not saying they don't, I'm sure they account for that and work it all out
Yes.
as we're scheduling, but there was something kind of special about there just being the small group of us and, you
Yeah.
couldn't get away with anything at all, from
Oh,
anyone.
yes.
Every
And you
teacher.
said that you went there for a year. What was your training like before that? Were you training much as a dancer in Adelaide?
Yeah, I danced from when I could walk, basically.
Right.
2.5, I think I started ballet at this really. really amazing ballet academy in Adelaide, and focused mostly on ballet. Then moved into jazz and tap and all that. Tap's really big in Adelaide too, so I really
Yes.
did a lot of that. And then contemporary, acro. You add all the extras in, hip hop, whatever comes
Oh,
up.
I feel
Um,
like the best talent comes from Adelaide. I know so much talented people from Adelaide.
You know what? I think it's similar to the idea of like Australians in America or UK. It's like the Adelaide, or even, I wouldn't even just say Adelaide, I would say any kind of
Yeah.
cities, because you kind of have to, if you're going to make it, you have to really want to, because like you're not going to go and travel and move to Sydney or Melbourne
Yeah.
if you're not totally in love with it, because it's just not worth it. So I think that is part of it.
Mm,
I don't know.
mm, absolutely. When you were originally saying about how you're on the phone to Todd and you kind of just had this moment where you were saying, like, listening to your heart saying, this is where I'm meant to go. Has
Mm.
that been the same for auditions you've gone through or particular shows that have resonated with you? Do you find that it's your heart that you listen to the most?
I think yes. I mean, firstly, I'm a classic Leo.
We love Leos.
Just through and through.
Yeah.
I'm just like everything is there, like
Mm,
I have my heart on my sleeve tattoo. I'm just
there you
like,
go.
and I try. Obviously, like we all combat it too. Like sometimes it's like you forget to, and you have to remind yourself to. So it's not that I'm like constantly nailing that, but it is a constant theme in my life, and that's why when you asked me to come on the podcast, I was thinking about what to talk about. It's one of the things that's like a constant theme in my life that I realized
Mm,
from the start. um, that was something that came up, like you said, when I got that phone call. It's like it was just a feeling, and I had said to you, like, before, it wasn't necessarily like trusting your gut. Like I feel like there's a difference between trusting
yes.
your gut and following your heart. Like trusting your gut is definitely super important, and it's a whole nother thing. But for me, I feel like the the following your heart part of it has just come constantly in like what shows I
Mm,
auditioned for, what people I wanted to work with, like the chemistry between you and another creative or another performer,
mm,
um, all of those things. And I think, yeah, following your heart, really listening into your heart and what it's telling you. And I think as performers, we should be, and we are very connected to that, because the reason why we
yes.
started dancing is because we love it. Like we love, 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 love it. Or we started singing because we love it. Or so I really think it's so important, and I think I've tried to do this, is like keep staying connected to that feeling,
Mm,
because it's a feeling that like lives within you, right? So it's like, I don't know, it's just like it's almost like nostalgic. I think it's something that I just always come back to. Like you can probably relate to this, like those days when you get like maybe it's your first show that you ever got, or like even if
yes.
it's something smaller, like this gig that you booked, or
Mm,
were asked to do a cool photo shoot, or I don't know, it's something that just like gave you this like you just like want to explode.
yes.
Like I have the most vivid memories of when I booked certain shows, like Wicked is one of them.
Yeah.
And I remember exactly where I was. Like I was standing in the middle of a street, and I was like on my phone, and I was jumping like up and down. I was like staring at the sky, and I was like, thank you, like crying, like, I love you, I love you. And then I was like thanking the universe, and, like that feeling
Mm,
should keep living within you, and over the years, like I've gotten older and I've done, different things, but it's
yeah.
something that I really keep trying to like keep within me, because that's the whole point, right?
Yeah. Well, it's why we started a lot of the time as well, when you first get on stage, or even,
Oh,
I remember just like doing classes and just having that,
right?
like all time goes away, you're just like fully immersed in it, you're there,
Yeah.
and I think that's really important that we're bringing this up today because I feel like in a new generation that's coming up, a lot of people that listen to the show are emerging performers. There's so much information, there's so many things online to compare yourself to, like there's so much going on
Yeah.
that I think we forget the fundamentals of what makes us artists and why we're doing it in the first place. So I'm really
Yeah.
happy that we're talking about that today.
Yeah, and I think like it's an interesting one because I think it leads into also like dreaming and
Mm,
almost like I like to like romanticize my life a little bit, like on purpose, like intentionally, because
mm-hmm,
I think that no one else is going to do that for you. And yes, I've had many success stories and I'm so grateful for them. And I don't want to like stand here and be like,
yeah,
it's easy for me to say, like, dream your dreams and like
yeah,
follow your heart when things are not going your way, right? But I still think that it's maybe even more important then, because I was thinking about this and I was like, it's almost like the same as love, like romantically or friendships wise, right? It's like
mm,
they say, like keep opening your heart and keep like risking falling in love at the risk of getting hurt. Well, I feel like that's what it's like as a performer, risking your heart,
mm.
like go into an audition when you just think like in your head, you're going, I, I would rather die than not book this show, right?
Yeah.
Like it feels like that sometimes, like you're like, if you loved, say if it was like your dream show, and you were like, I would literally just rather not die, obviously, but I would rather, that was a joke, but like I would rather just like bury myself in my
Yes.
tuna and like not see the world for like a whole year than not get this show. And so there's such a risk there sometimes because we're just putting our heart on the line. And I
Mm,
think that you just have to do it. That's all I
mm,
can say about that is like, what if you don't, you're still going to get hurt. It's still going to
mm,
hurt because you're pretending to yourself, like it's not real. You're just faking it because inside you really know that it's what you love and it's what you want. And so I just think like feeling okay to really go there and really like dream those dreams.
mm.
And you don't have to like say it out to the world. You don't have to put an Instagram post being like, I want this. This is my dream. But inside yourself have those like little private conversations with yourself where I think it's okay to just be like, I really want this. It's
Mm,
really it's really what I love. It's really a dream of mine. And then it kind of allows you emotionally to like go the whole way there. And then if it happens, wow, how amazing, right? And then if it doesn't, I think then it's that process of like really feeling those feelings too, like feeling the
yeah.
heartbreak of it, going through that, moving through that, and then falling in love with something else, which you will, and you always do, and it always makes sense in the end.
Yeah. Well, I
Like
mean, there's with all the things that you've done, I'm sure there's been countless, if not probably even more auditions that you've not got through and not done. And you've probably had to go through those stages and wanting to bury yourself in the sand. And was it your heart that guided you through those periods, or how did you kind of pick yourself up? I know that you mentioned to make sure that you have space to feel those feelings. It's not about just like pushing them to the side.
mm.
But was there any points in your career so far that you had moments that you wanted to bury yourself? And how long did you stay there? And what did you do to get out of it?
I have to be honest with you. I was very, very lucky for a very long time, and
Mm,
I didn't really not get anything I went for. And I'll tell you why. A lot of that had to do with timing
mm-hmm.
because I did a bunch of like long running shows and things. So I wasn't doing a lot of auditions. I would like
Yes.
audition for a show, do it for like, 2 years or something, and then do
Yes.
another audition. And that was just kind of how it played out for me. So that's just
Yes.
me being honest about that. However, as time went on, yes, I did have auditions that I did and I didn't get them. Yes, 100%. Just not
Yes.
so much at the start.
Yes.
Um, and when that happened for me, I think that I really, yeah, I definitely felt super down and I let myself feel that way. And I also just like gave myself the time to think about maybe the reasons why it was okay that I wasn't doing that show.
Mm,
And, um, and what else could come up for me next. And just like, and this kind of goes into the other kind of topic that I was talking about is where I feel like around that time, that was when I started to reinvent myself a little bit. So I think that's where I started to think outside the box, because I think it's like these things come up and you've come up to like a door closing on you, and you have
Yeah.
to kind of look to the sides and be like, okay, where am I going
What
to go?
else?
Yeah. That's
Mm.
not to say it didn't hurt me and all of that, but yeah, I think I really felt it, went through it, and then I kind of looked around and I was like, okay, what kind of other things do I want to do in my career, that I could do instead of just like kind of auditioning for the same kinds of things again and again, and maybe I want to try something different. So yeah, that was kind of where
Yeah.
that came up for me, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. And I feel like, I mean, every person that I've had on here has agreed with this, that, you know, what you're going for and what you get is exactly what is meant for you in that moment. And a lot of the time we can't swallow that pill in the time when we do really want it. But anything that I've not gotten or have gotten, like there's been, I won't say which, but there's been some shows that I've gotten and been like, you know, I didn't think I would have loved it, or I didn't know what the opportunity was there. But every time I've done a
100%.
show, there's been, you know, so much learning. And after the contract's finished, I'm like, oh, I get it. I get why I got this, because I was meant to learn this lesson, which is a
100%.
beautiful thing that you actually don't understand until you do a show. Because a lot of the time we just think, oh, we're so focused when we're starting out on just like getting the gig, getting the show, whatever. But there's
Yeah.
so many beautiful miracles that happen from doing it. And it could be one lesson, but it could be the exact lesson that you need in that moment.
I so agree with that. And I think,
Mm.
you know, and I feel like the older I've gotten, the more I'm able to see that before the before the fact more, which has been a really cool
Yes.
like learning thing for me, because I think I wouldn't have seen that years
Yeah.
and years ago, especially at the start, in that time that I said that I felt like I was like really booking a lot of shows, you know. It's like I think now, that I'm a bit older, I really look at each kind of gig, each show, and I go, what might be the reason that this show might be good for me, or this role, or something different, as opposed to just feeling uncomfortable being like, this is very different for me, or this is like, I'm not sure, or like, you know, maybe I don't get to be like hot and sexy in this show, or maybe I don't, you know, like
Yeah.
there's all these little things that we tell ourselves, or like maybe I'm not singing a solo line or whatever, you know. It's like,
Yeah.
and then you do it, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. I really,
Mm.
you know, I feel like sometimes you even learn more from those ones, and you come out and go,
Yes.
oh my gosh, I'm so much of a better performer because of that, you know,
Yes. Oh my
truly.
gosh.
Because if you were just doing those ones that you knew you were going to smash all the time,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe there's not as much growth there.
Mm. Oh, yes. I mean, I felt
Right.
like I could talk about just that topic for hours.
Yeah.
But just circling back on when we're talking about, you know, reinventing yourself and not being scared to do that, I feel like as a performer, we're constantly in that reinventing with the industry ever changing, and not just in MT, but in performing arts, even, you know, corporate, whatever it is. I feel like as an artist, we are inherently, is that the right word?
Hmm.
Like inherently always changing and having to reinvent ourselves. But I would love to, yeah, talk a bit more on that and how that's kind of played out in your life too.
Yeah. Well, for me, like obviously coming from mainly a dance background and then having to really add singing and acting to the mix, you know, that was a part of reinvention, I guess, and I kept improving that and, adding that in as I went along and working on those things. But then more recently in my life, and during that time that I was telling you where I was auditioning and not getting as many things as I hoped I would get in the musical
Yeah.
theatre realm, um, I had this had this opportunity given to me to be in a circus cabaret, and that was like very different for me, and something, you know, I'd just
Yeah.
been doing musical theater for a long time, like
Yeah.
10 plus years at this point. And yeah, once again, following my heart, I felt in my heart, like when I had this discussion with the director who approached me and asked me to be a part of the show, and I was feeling into it, and it was super different. It was quite scary actually, like some of the things I had to do.
Mm.
had to be naked on stage and all of this stuff that I'd like never done before. Oh my God. And I just felt into that feeling and I went with it. And gosh, it was one of the biggest blessings of my life because I basically ran away with the circus for 3 years. And
Cool.
what I've been doing mostly the last few years, actually. And
Wow.
yeah, it was such an amazing experience to go into cabaret. As you probably know, these amazing cabaret performers that sometimes they cross over with musical theatre a lot as well. But the level of talent and ability to like connect with these smaller audiences,
Yeah.
things like that is just something different that I hadn't done as
It's like a
much of.
whole nother world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it requires so much connection, like direct connection. Like I'd been doing 2,000 seat theaters, which are amazing and the best, obviously. And so this was really different, and yeah, wow, like that was something where I changed my path, and
Yeah.
then I really saw my kind of level of growth just go uphill like really fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was really interesting to watch. I was like, wow, I'm so much more comfortable than I was 2 months ago, and then again and again and again. And I
Yeah.
having now done this show that I did for so long and I've just finished it for a while, I've come out of it and I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It was really cool. And I think performers shouldn't be afraid to do things that are a little bit different like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it might be scary, but I think, yeah, the growth is great.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I feel
Yeah.
like anytime we're in growth, we have the most like happiness. I know that might sound a bit cliche, but
Yeah.
I mean, we as humans, going to be scientific now, we're actually designed to grow. Like whenever we are learning, like and growing, we
Yeah.
always feel better off. We feel like we're moving forward, that we're progressing.
Yeah.
So for sure. And I mean, there's no absolutely no harm in doing the same class, and if that's like bringing you a bit of fun, but I think as performers, we need to be constantly challenging ourselves and choosing growth over comfort, because definitely that's always a place where you're going to find those little nuggets of success that you didn't know were there. And how
Yeah.
good that you just, listened to your heart and you went away with the circus. And I'm I'm such a big believer in that no matter what, whether it's cabaret, circus, musical theatre, gigs at Crown, like, you know what I mean? I feel like there is always opportunities for growth. And even in class, if you're not performing yet, I've always told my students that in every single class, there is a place to learn and to learn something from the teacher, no matter who it is or what you're learning from. And I
Yeah.
think having that mindset has helped me personally as well. But
Yeah.
I love how that's played out into your life too.
Yeah, and I think it's important not to make assumptions about yourself. I think that's a
Yes.
big one, especially in this day and age with everyone really expressing their identity a bit more
Mm.
in their personal identity a bit more, being more open to that. I think don't put yourself in a box. Let other people do that for you.
Yeah.
Don't assume like, oh, I look this certain way, they won't want me to do that like old school like gig, or
Yeah.
I'm more commercial, so like they're not going to really want me for like a musical. It's like don't like do that for them. Just
Yeah.
just give I think I know everyone. It says it's like it's one of those things that we say a lot, like being a jack of all trades. But
Yeah.
I really like for me, it's served me so well. Just like really committing to everything.
Yeah.
Like being in that hip hop class and being like, whoa, I'm definitely not these guys, but like it's going to serve me then when I do this gig where I have to do like a bit of hip hop in it, and like I'm
Yeah.
pretty good at it. So it's like
Yeah.
it's not my thing, but don't sell yourself short.
Mm.
Let the industry will do that for you anyway, but you don't need to do
Absolutely. And I
it.
think that plays in a lot of longevity. And I've had a similar career in you, in the sense that when I was starting out, for the first 5 or 6 years, like I had kind of back-to-back shows. But I think that came down to my willingness to just constantly want to grow and pick things that were forcing me out of my comfort zone. And I think if you are listening in and you're in full time, you're already growing so much because you're getting so many things thrown at you.
Yeah.
So if you've just finished or you're in a period where you need to, I have a saying that says sort it out, which is a bit of tough love. I have days where I have sorted out days. So if I'm feeling a bit low and stuff, I'm like, right, Taylor, you need to sort it out. Just go to that class, get to that singing lesson, whatever it is that's just going to push you a little bit out of where you are. It's the fastest way, I think, to going back into that growth. And also on that, I'm a big believer as well in just sourcing things that, because we already know, right? We already know what we need to do. We already know inherently like the things that we need to do that make us feel good, that will push us out. So I think, again, it goes back to listening to your heart, listening back to yourself and trusting that you actually know what you need to do. We just need to give us a little bit of courage and a little bit of strength to just go and actually do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, just while you were talking then, it was making me think of like, I've really rode the highs. Like I've had a lot of highs in my
Yeah.
career thus far. And I'm, like when I think about them, like I could cry thinking about them because I really like, I'm so in love with like the journey I've had so far. I never would have dreamed that all of this would have happened.
No.
Honestly, if you told me when I was 17, I would not have believed you.
Yes.
Um, but but when you were talking, then I was thinking of like myself when I went through like harder times, or other people out there that are not having those highs all the time. And I think it's like, I think just remembering as well that this is a community that we're part of. Like it is a community.
Yeah.
And so, reaching out and connecting um, and finding those people around you that you connect with, whether it be like your favorite choreographer or your friend that you love to dance next to, or someone that you love like just singing with, like on the guitar with and making a
Yeah.
video, all these little things that like, yeah, really like remind you of why you started doing what you're doing. That is like this energy that you can create and circulate, and then that becomes an energy that gets put out there into the world, and then other people are attracted by that.
Yes.
So I think like you're saying, you know what to do. Yeah, it's like really tapping into that, I think, is a special thing too, because we have this thing that we know about and no one else bloody knows about. It's like we're in this it's like we're in this club, and it's like
Yeah.
like as a performer, I feel like you can just look at each other and be like, we
Yeah.
know, like it's the best damn like life in the world. And I was gonna say job, but it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Like it's the best. Like I can't think of anything else I would have rather do my whole life. It's the best. Like what an amazing feeling. Just being a dancer alone, I think dance is just the freaking best
Yes.
thing you can do. It's just pure joy, and so I think, yeah, anyone that's like feeling like they're going through a bit of a dry spell or whatever, it's like really, yeah, just go back into that feeling. Remember when you were little and you were like, begging your mum or dad
Yes.
to like take you to class, or, that
Yeah.
it comes from somewhere.
Or you'd rock up early and you'd just be like jumping around and stay late, and then you get home and dance more. Like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I did that just when you were talking before. I
Yeah.
was thinking like the good moments are great as well, but really like thinking about when it's hard as well, like tapping into that feeling again. I think
Yeah.
is yeah, a good
It's
thing to do.
crucial.
Mm,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Has there been any, as we're kind of coming near to the end of the show, I feel like I could talk to you forever. But has there been any advice, and it could have been from Todd or anyone in your career that's like helped you in some sort of way? Of like, what's the best form of advice you feel like you've been given as a performer?
I have a lot of like strong women in my life. I have like that have been around me. One, my agent, Peter Webb, and one, my dear friend who I work with and for a lot, Yvette Lee. And I
Yeah.
think like both of them over the years have really helped guide me and give me amazing advice about myself and my career. And I think, yeah, I think both of them in different ways, just kind of reminding me like who I am and why I'm special. And I think it's not even like so many words, but I think, yeah, I think that's kind of the best. It's not really advice, I guess, but it's
Yeah.
like, I think it's like re-guiding you back to you a little bit. That's not really the answer to the question, but I think it feels like advice to me, because I think sometimes when you maybe feel like you're doubting yourself or whatever, which I have in certain moments over the years. And I think it's just been really important to have people that are outside of you viewing your career from an outsider perspective, and just be able to kind of see it clearly, because we get very caught up in our own stuff.
Yes.
And yeah, I think one of the bits of advice was kind of what I said before, like don't judge yourself before like they got like before the audition panel is basically going to, because I think for me, coming from dance first and then moving into singing and acting, I was like that classic example of like, I'm not a singer, I'm, like all of that stuff, which is just so common. And yeah, I think it was really good, I think, to have these women in my life like remind me, like I remember my agent actually saying to me before I went in for a final callback, which was for a specific singer actor role. And she was just like, you can, like don't like get ahead of yourself like that. Like you are this, like you just have to be it, like don't yeah don't judge yourself in that way, because it'll happen anyway. So you just need to, kind of like let those thoughts go. This kind of idea of who you think you are, it can be really toxic. I think it's important to have someone from the outside check you and be like, no, you're that, like you just
Yeah.
do it, and let them make the decision,
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a really long-winded way of kind of getting to that, but I think that's been really good advice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I speak a lot on the show about having mentors, and I've been lucky enough to become a mentor for a lot of the people in the community that are emerging performers. And just because, I've also known the benefits of having people in your life that can check you, make sure that you're staying grounded, and that you also, staying in your lane. I think we can just get pulled into so many different directions in this industry. But I think at the end of the day, if you have you don't even need many people, but I think like if you can count all of them in one hand, or even like half of a hand, I think you're in a really good position to just move forward in a way that is going to be most supportive for you. And that may take a little while to find those people, but if you are lucky enough to be in full time, I'm sure many of your teachers could be one of those. I hope people have got a lot out of speaking with you. I know I have, and it's just been awesome having you on. I just can't thank you enough. I'm keen to go ahead with my day and continue reinventing myself.
Yes, and romanticize your life, and just listen to music and walk around and
Yes.
walk down the street and just be like, I love to dance. I love,
Yes.
you
It reminds me of Christina Aguilera in Burlesque, where she's like got the headphones on and she's down the street.
That's it. That's
the dream.
That's the all the time.
All right. That's everyone's call to action today. Get your headphones on, go down the street. If you're in Melbourne, if it's Tuesday, and it's probably not by the time you hear this, but if it's sunny, or even if it's not sunny, get the headphones on, go for a dance, either inside or outside.
Put on Chapel Roan's new album. It's smashing.
Oh,
that's the vibe.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll have to add it in the show notes so everyone can listen to it straight after.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mel.
Thank you. What a joy. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.